It's the wrong app.
I wish we could play the Bulls theme because this would be a perfect beginning to the podcast.
That's all I'll give you because copyright. My
I
voice
like
is
how
The starting lineup
Brandon
for
marked out 1 minute ago for nitro footage on Sports Center.
at guard 6'6".
I mean that I think those were my two favorite episodes.
Was 1998 the peak of wrestling and basketball?
1998 may have been. I don't know if it's the peak of America, but I mean, as far as like entertainment, like I always say, like the best year for music was 1997. Like just all the music that came out that year was just fantastic. I can't say it's the peak of America, but yeah, I mean, just like awesome stuff like basketball and wrestling. I guess things that we like all came to a head that year. It was really cool.
And literally when worlds collide.
When worlds collide. Was that year?
No. I'm talking about Rodman showing up on WCW.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
Literally, worlds collide.
I don't know what. Yeah, I'm thinking of worlds collide for some reason.
Oh yeah, I know. I love saying when worlds collide. Anyways,
we're going crazy, but I mean, like, so episode 9, they kind of like they debunked the whole flu game saying, and Jordan straight up was like, yeah, it was food poisoning. It's like
Pizzagate, dude. Pizzagate.
Okay.
Well,
like,
here's the thing. I don't mean to cut you off. I'll let you go in a second.
Okay.
But when it was never a debunking of it being a flu game. We know he had flu-like symptoms, which is just like dehydrated, throwing up, and everything and all. The main thing was people were thinking that Jordan was out either gambling or partying the night before, and that he had a hangover into this game. That was like the rumor that was going around. Obviously, I think that's been debunked. The pizza story has been going around forever, and just the fact that they kind of dived into that a little bit more and just talked about how 5 guys showed up to deliver the pizza. I mean, that's definitely putting a little bit more weight on that story.
So the first thing, okay, as you say that, now I'm questioning if this pizza thing is real, but as I was watching it, first off, Chicago pizza or nothing. Like if you're gonna go somewhere else and you're gonna get pizza, like you're crazy. I know pizza's pizza, but come on. Okay, the like you kind of answered my question on like I didn't know that was like a thing that was going around, that this pizza storyline of the reason why he was sick in this game, because to me it seemed like it was just like all of a sudden here's like this Pizzagate is going on. And my whole question is, now did they, when they called to order the pizza, like first off, if they did, like did they just say, hey, this is for Michael Jordan? Like first off, why would you do that? Like I have so many questions. Like how did they know it was for him?
Definitely probably figured out it's that hotel.
Right
because there was like a crowd there.
Okay.
And like, okay, maybe it's gonna be like one of the players, and it happens to be Jordan because they keep saying like they're trying to peep in the room. So like they could have got anyone on the Bulls, right?
For sure.
I guess, yeah. So my question then is, do you think they slipped something into the pizza to make him sick because they knew he had a big game up against, it's you're in a different city, anything is possible. Do you think that they slipped him something in the pizza?
That would be my guess.
Yeah, I think that's the case. Justin,
I think that's plausible.
I think they did a little slipski.
Yeah. I'm glad that we all agree on this because I was thinking that and I was like, no, I'm crazy. But like, I mean, why would 5 people show up? Like, other than, obviously, yes, it's Michael Jordan. They want to see Michael Jordan, but like, I don't know. Maybe they want to make sure the deal was, the deal was done, because that's honestly like the main thing that keeps going through my head.
Like now, like that would be like a YouTube vlog. Like we poisoned the pizza. That'd be like TikTok, Twitter, like
yeah.
Right.
Like they're filming going up to the room, and then after they're like, "Oh my god, look at what we did."
Imagine like one of those people, like they probably had kids that had then their kids had kids, and they told them about like, hey, one time I delivered a pizza to Michael Jordan's hotel, and that's the reason he like was doing so bad in that game. And I mean, like no one would believe you.
The game
Like,
that the Bulls won.
well, yeah, but still, like that was the reason why, like like he wasn't playing himself in the beginning. Like, I mean, I don't even know. Like that's like one of those like crazy things. But this pizza was, I mean, this pizza got me going for like the rest of the episode. I had a lot of questions about this pizza, so I'm glad that we all agree that probably slipped him something.
Yeah, the 1997 season is pretty much like boiled down into like that one game. Like
Hmm.
game 5 of the NBA Finals 97, the flu game. When you think about 1997 NBA basketball, that's the one game you think of.
Hmm. I mean, that ending to the finals that year, I mean, that was incredible.
That is one of
Like,
my favorite endings. Just the steal from Pippen, and he throws it out to Kukoc, who dunks the ball, and everybody comes out in the court,
yeah.
winning that title at home. That's definitely one of the best endings I've ever seen.
I mean, it's always cool to obviously have the team win at home. I know, like for like the Blackhawks, where they won the one in 2010 on the road, the one in 2013 on the road, and then finally 2015 felt like it felt like that was the one that they could finally win at home. And it's the same thing with this 1997 game where it's like, you know, like winning that at home and just like you said, the ending is just I don't know, it was just so awesome and just to see it and replay it and everything. So that was really cool.
Yeah, what's
I
good
would.
about the finals, or at least the Bulls, this whole run, they only won two of the final series at home, I believe. I don't know if 1993, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I know 92 that they won it at home, and then 96 and 97, so they didn't have to win too many on the road, which is nice.
Hmm.
I was surprised how much real estate they gave Steve Kerr on these
Yeah.
episodes. I'm like, these are the last two episodes, and I'm like, why is they doing a little mini biopic on him right now? Like, I need more Jordan, and then they built it up to the shot.
Right.
It was like, oh, okay, this all
Stephen
makes
Kerr
sense.
made he made the big shot in the series clinching game in '97, and he had a huge shot in the '98 finals as well. So it's just kind of all it was nice how they kind of wrapped that all around.
Yeah, they were kind of trailing off a little bit, but then they kind of brought it back in, so that was like that made sense there. And honestly, like I mean, give me a documentary on the whole kidnapping situation and Kerr's dad because they were talking about that, and I was like, what strange stuff is happening with this? Like this, I mean, this could be a whole hour long thing. Like, just. I mean that like I was so lost like trying to like, understand what was going on there. Like the one got kidnapped, so Steve Kerr's dad stepped in, and then like he got shot. Like what was going on? I was just so confused and taken back by that. Like I need to know more about that little
Yeah, for
like thing.
sure. Of the two things that I didn't know, you know, going into this series that I kind of found out watching this, the two things, one of the things that was one of them for sure. I had no clue about any of that stuff when it came to Steve Kerr's dad. I mean, they probably talked about it during like the broadcast, but I may have just kind of ignored it.
Hmm.
But yeah, I had no clue about that.
And kind of like tying in with Steve Kerr, he mentioned like he looked up kind of to Paxson and what he like just him playing and everything, and he would watch him on the road, like when he wasn't playing against the Bulls. And the whole thing with Pax is like if he didn't screw up the Bulls, the past couple of years, like in modern day past couple of years, like that would mean so much more. But just like being in Chicago and like seeing how much Bulls fans hate that guy, it just kind of like it kind of has a little like little asterisks like next to it where it's like yes he was like this big inspiration and like he made that last shot and everything and the
It
pass
was
from
so
Jordan.
long ago, though. So
Yeah,
long
well,
ago.
yeah, and so like that was like it was really cool and you felt good for him, but then it's like yeah, but like like I mean, but look what he's doing now. So it's kind of like that weird back and forth with him.
Right.
It's crazy that I didn't realize the head coach leaves and then goes wins like championships years like right after.
Phil Jackson.
Like
Yeah,
there's
Phil.
like there's no break.
Yeah. There was a break in '99, um, and then 2000. Like the whole thing for the Lakers changed when they moved into the Staples Center, and then they got Phil Jackson. It was huge for him.
So the
And
big thing that we all marked out about was we talked about last week that they're going to show some NWO footage, and they did. And I was like, and now all over the internet currently, that's like the big meme for the Jordan.
wrestling is back, dude. Like wrestling is cool again.
For this night, if anything else, for this night, it
Yeah.
is cool again. But yeah, I mean, he missed practice for NBA Finals game to
That's
go
wild.
and hit DDP in the back of the chair. So yeah, man, that was a very cool moment.
And them
Oh,
trying to sneak out like Dennis Rodman from like the building, like to the bus or to his truck or whatever. Like that was like a movie scene. Like they were like, all right, well, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna like, we gotta sneak him through here. He was fined for missing practice. He doesn't care. Like he doesn't like have anything to say about that. We gotta sneak him up the stairs and whatever. He was explaining it, and then he let it happen. And then when the media finds out, and they're like, oh, that dude with the camera, he was running up the stairs with the camera. Like respect to that guy, because that guy, I mean that's a heavy camera. So everybody was like trying to run to get that shot, and before you know it, he was gone. So I mean that was wild.
Yeah,
That
for
was
sure.
something else. So the other thing that was kind of um, like going back to earlier when I said with like Paxton, and they kind of set this up, which was pretty cool. Like they had the thing where it was MJ like passed it to Paxton to make that final shot, and then like the next like and then like later down the road he had that pass to Kerr for that last shot, and then finally in this last game Jordan got his own moment. You know what I mean? And like looking at that shot, and they kind of like showed all the fans of the Utah Jazz like just like in awe, like what is happening as Jordan goes up for this shot. Like that picture, I need that like framed because that
Oh
is just
yeah.
like such
I
an
mean, it's
awesome.
iconic. Yeah, that was the last Jordan poster. I don't think I had anything from the Wizards. I doubt it. But the last Jordan poster that I purchased was that shot. It was like a all black and white poster, but he was in color and all red. And it
Hmm.
was for that shot on there. But yeah, it's super iconic. Like I said, it's the most watched NBA game ever. I think it's like 70 million people or something like that watched that game.
Jeez.
that's what.
Yeah, no, nothing's come even close to it at all. Just super iconic shot.
And then so
I like
obviously they. Oh,
it's
go
so
ahead.
it's so crazy how like most of those games when you read like when they show this like the score, it's like so close. Like I feel like no game's like not even close to like a blowout. It's always like 2 to 5 points. I feel like.
Except
They
for
did
that
show
one
the
game.
one game, I think it was game three or so, where
Hmm.
the Jazz only scored like 54, 55 points. I remember watching that game and just how incredibly awful they were.
That was nuts. Like I saw you tweet about that, and then like they showed the score, and I was like, my God! Like in a finals,
Just
I
any game,
mean,
lowest score any game they scored. Not just the finals. It's insane.
that was just, I was shocked to see that. And like that's kind of like the story of this entire documentary for me is like throughout this whole thing, I knew that the Bulls won, the 6 games, the three and the three. Like I knew that they were going to win this game, whatever. But I was still on the edge of my seat watching these, like as they show this, and it's like, oh, what's gonna happen? It's like for a second, like they were able to pull me out of me knowing stuff, and they kind of like made it so I wanted to like tune in and like see what would happen, even though, like I said, I knew what was going to happen. I knew that the Bulls were going to win, like 3 championships and then another 3 championships. But in that moment, it's like it just like shows to the credit of the documentary crew that they were able to like take you out of that and kind of like make you forget about that for a second, and then like show obviously what happened, and then you're like all excited and everything.
I
Yeah,
find
it
it
was very cool how the editing, kind of going back and forth between timelines, and of course everything was able to meet up here at the end. So I definitely think it worked out pretty well.
I just think how like looking at the last shot is just like how like poetic is that? Like that's it. Like clutch, finals, game on the line. You take the last shot, you get it. Like it's not like perfect. Like with it's like a buzzer beater. That would be like the ultimate. But it's just
Hmm.
like that's just wild.
Yeah, I mean that's why. like that's why I just like keep thinking about that picture, like that still frame picture, and like it's not it's just such a weird like shot too. He looks like awkward taking that shot too in that picture,
Mhm.
and so that's why it's just like if there's anyone that's going to kind of like wrap up this whole ride, if you will. It is Jordan, and that's like one of those like hypotheticals. Like, hypothetically, who would you throw the ball to, or who would you, put up the bat, or who would you, whatever. Like, who'd you give the, hand off the ball to, or whatever. Like in those things where it's like, um, if you had to pick one player to finish out the game for you, like that's 9 times out of 10 is going to be Jordan.
He was
So for
definitely the one
him,
for sure. Yeah, and what's
yeah,
funny was that they were talking about as he was kind of set. He stole the ball from Malone. He pushed the ball up the court, and like all the players, like Kukoc and Rodman, they were all like, "Yeah, we just kind of got out of the way because we knew that he was taking the shot." I think even Rodman was like, "Yeah, I've seen him pass the Paxton, I've seen him pass the Kerr, but in this situation, we knew that he was going to take this shot, so we just kind of got the hell out of the way and just go ahead and let him do his thing on there." So yeah, super iconic moment.
and then talking about how freaking Scottie Pippen with his back, like he like left for some time. They
Yeah.
tried to like warm him up and ice him down, whatever, and then he came back in, and then he went back out, and then he came back in. I mean that was just wild to see.
Yeah, I think he had like 8 points that game. But yeah, I think it was very very interesting to see him kind of go out there, and I kind of hated that this documentary seems to kind of have like a dark light on Scottie Pippen, between that and of course him quitting on the team in '94 and everything. It definitely sucks to see that. I hope that's not like the legacy that's left behind for Scotty, because he definitely was a serious factor when it came to winning all 6 of those championships. But yeah, it was definitely interesting to see them cover that. And of course, Jordan had to kind of step up, and 45 points in a closeout game in the finals is something that you shouldn't just kind of push to the side. I mean, that was a huge game for Jordan for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, like you said, you hope that doesn't like shine a bad light on Scotty. Like, if anything, I like him even more coming out of this documentary than I did before. Like, obviously, like I knew the name, I knew the number, I knew the jersey, and I didn't know much about the guy. And I mean, he seems like I mean, like he would go on anyone's team, like good on anyone's team. So if anything, I like him more after this, and I think that's like the consensus on Jordan too. I don't know. What do you guys think? Because a lot of
Yeah,
people were saying before the documentary started that a lot of people are going to come out of this hating Jordan, and it's like if anything, I like him even more.
yeah, that's
I feel
exactly
sad
what it
at the
is.
end. At the end, when he wants to, like, he's like, if they ask you to join one more year, would you do it? He's like, of course.
Yeah, and that was for me. That was the second thing that I didn't know was it was always kind of like the way it was presented, at least in like the media and whatnot in 1998, was that Jordan just kind of had enough. It's just like, okay, like everyone kind of had enough. They did what they could. They won the 6 championships. Now everyone's kind of going their own separate ways. To know that Jordan would have come back if they had said like, okay, let's just run it back one more time. We'll do 1 of your contracts, and he said that he would have signed that. Like that just kind of blew my mind just hearing that, and just like the 1999 season was weird because it was a lockout season. They didn't start until later on in the season. So just to see that where Jordan would have got some extra rest, that way he can kind of get himself ready for that season. I don't see how they wouldn't have have won a championship. I mean, the Knicks, they got to the finals, but they weren't really a super threat at all. And then you had the Spurs, who the Spurs were there, but Tim Duncan was young. David Robinson was getting to his first finals. They had a really good team, and it definitely would have been interesting to see them go against the Bulls. But again, if they would have brought that whole team back with the extra rest that they would have gotten because of the lockout season, I think they probably would have won their 7th title.
Yeah, because everyone in that crowd at the rally, like they wanted number seven, and him saying that, it's like I mean, I don't understand like the management and the ownership. Like why, like I mean, put your differences aside and go win another championship. Like I know it's like easy to for me to say, but it's like, I mean, that's just like it was hard to wrap my brain around it. And obviously, Jerry Reinsdorf, like I know that name like crazy. Obviously, he's the owner of the Bulls, but he's also the owner of the White Sox. So he's just a name where like one day, he's the greatest and one day he's like the worst. So I mean, just hearing that and then like obviously that clip of Jordan watching Jerry Reinsdorf talking, it's just I don't know, just hard to understand why they wouldn't want to win another one.
I I was like, if I was a Chicago Bulls fan and then I watched this and like it triggered back all my memories, I would like feel like I would hate the Bulls forever, honestly. It's just like, oh yeah, we're gonna rebuild and like nothing ever
Now,
happened to this.
here's where I'll play like devil's advocate a little bit like this, where I kind of feel you where you say that, but honestly, like that team went out on top. Like they won a championship and then they just
Yeah.
kind of like went away. So it wasn't a situation where they came back in the '99 season and they lost to the Spurs, they lost to the Knicks or whoever, or even if they went like the next year, they would have lost to the Lakers or the Pacers or whoever. The fact that they went out on top kind of helps the allure of that team for sure. So yeah, I could understand being upset with them not having the chance to go out there and win their seventh title. But again, they went out on top. They were the best team, and then they just kind of quit. So nobody was able to beat them. And I think, like I said, I think that helps with the allure of that team.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'd have to agree. Just like from you saying that, like it makes sense. Like so many people. Like here's like a tie into wrestling, like with the Undertaker, where it's like if he would have like went out on top, like, and then he came back and had some like mishaps, and like you said, where what if the Bulls came back, that same team came back and they lost in '99, and then tried to do it in 2000 or whatever. You know what I mean? So the
Right.
fact that like they did go out on top, it kind of like adds that like you said, that mystique to them, and everyone's questioning like, oh well, could we have beaten them? Could we not have beaten them? Whatever. But kind of like their that post like 1998 celebration, there's a lot to come from that. I mean, Jordan just like walking away and he's like looking outside and he sees that it's still light outside and he says like it's still daylight and like we might be able to get some golf swings in. It's like I mean you just won like your sixth championship and you're like thinking about golfing, so that was like pretty funny to hear him say that. And then Jordan playing the piano in his room. Like earlier in the episode, they like he talked about like his piano in his room, and like just him like with those pictures. I mean, that was just like I mean that's like an iconic thing right there. Like him just playing the piano after winning his championship. Like that was wild. Um,
You make a good comparison. I do kind of push this into wrestling, but like just imagine like how I won't say bigger, but I guess you could say bigger. Just how more it will feel more important for the Undertaker's career had he retired after the Hell in a Cell match at 28.
mhm.
Like the
Yeah.
end of the era match, like you're going out there, you're having this incredible bout against Triple H, and you win, and then you all like ride off in the sunset together. Like imagine if like that was his last match, and that's how he went out. That's
Yeah,
literally what Game 6 of the '98 Finals was for Jordan, and I could just imagine like if Jordan came back the '99 year or whatever, and then they lost, and then now he's 6-1 in the finals versus 6-0. I think again, it would have been cool to see them come back to try to win the seventh one, but just the fact that they were able to go out on top, I think that helps out for sure.
yeah, of course. And I mean, like the one thing. Okay, well, hold on. Sorry, I got lost in that. I was trying to think of like the comparison because yeah, I know that like Shawn Michaels was like one where I know like he was at the end of his career anyway, but just the fact that he went out on his own terms is always big. And yeah, if the Undertaker would have like left at the 28, and
Right.
honestly, if Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, and Triple H just stopped wrestling after WrestleMania 28, I mean that would be like one of the most iconic moments in wrestling.
Yeah,
But
I mean, it definitely would have, but like I said, he came back, and I won't say it tarnished the legacy at all. He's still like one of the all-time greats, but the fact that he has that blemish, even though he has two, but even that first one, he has that blemish on his record. I can't imagine Jordan coming back and having that blemish on his record because that's one of the things that stood the test of time when it comes to the argument about who's the GOAT, Jordan or LeBron or whoever, is the fact that he is 6-0 in the finals. So
yeah,
again, if he would have had like some type of blemish on his record, I definitely think that would have hurt his argument a little bit when it comes to like the goat
So
conversation.
that was the final question of the whole series we were doing. Who is Michael Jordan the greatest of all time?
Yeah, I mean, I've always said that for sure. I've also said that you have the greatest player of all time, the greatest of all time, depending on the era that you're in. Just because basketball, like the rules and everything, have changed and how the game is played. Everything has changed on there. So, like, people say that LeBron is the best of this era. Absolutely. People say
Mm-hmm.
Jordan is the best of his era, whatever. Absolutely. But if you had to, you know, if I
One guy.
had to win a game, if I had to win one basketball game, and I wanted to pick somebody to lead that team, it's going to be Jordan every single time.
Of
So
course.
So
you're saying
for
Michael
me,
Jordan always takes the last shot, no matter anyone in the world.
yeah, and it's not. I don't think there's anything wrong with, like, people bring up like LeBron. He's not taking the last shot. He's passing the ball. That's just him being a smart player. If he knows there's somebody else who has a better chance of making that shot, then that's a smart play on there. But when you have someone with that killer mentality, where, like, I don't care if anyone else, if Steve Kerr can shoot 45% from behind the arc, if I have to take this shot, even if I have two guys on me, I'm going to take that shot on there. So again, if I need to win one game, it's going to be Jordan.
Justin, so they showed some of those, like this will be like wrapping up here, but they showed the rallies in Grant Park. Did you know that we saw Third Eye Blind on that stage that they were at?
Oh, that small stage, the Third
Yeah,
Eye Blind stage. They
yeah,
couldn't build a custom stage. That's wild because that stage is so small, like
it is
compared to
small,
every
yeah.
other stage.
And they
And
showed
it's
those,
how much
like,
people are there? Like how much million? Like
yeah. I mean, they filled up that area, and obviously, like we were there, and it's a lot. It looks a lot, it's a lot smaller in person than it looks on TV because they showed that shot from the stage up at the crowd, and it looks like that goes on for miles. But I mean, that was probably like like obviously, like we were able to walk from one side of that place to that stage in like a small amount of time. It just looks a lot bigger on TV. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I thought I'd bring that up because that was, one of those cool moments where it's like, you really don't think about like those little things, like what happened in this area, and the fact that we saw, uh, Lollapalooza there. That was cool. So, but
I'm
yeah,
shocked that like I was thinking like okay, everyone's like LeBron and Jordan. How does LeBron counter this doc? It's like does he just make the down 3-1 in the finals?
No, you, you,
No.
you can't counter this documentary unless he wins three
hmm
more championships at the very least.
So he has to win
Um,
3 times in LA.
he's got to, yeah, and I don't think that's going to happen at all.
mm
So there's no way you can counter this. I mean, he can put out a documentary; it'll be fantastic. Like, I feel like I his 15th year in the season, the one he took the Cavs to the finals the last time. I think he had like a film crew, like, documentary that season. That was a really good season. I mean, he was incredible that year. So you can still make a good documentary out of like LeBron, whatever. But I mean, it's nothing's beating this at all.
No, I mean the only thing you could say is if like whenever the next season is or whenever like the previous season picks up or whenever, like if he were to like I don't know, sweep the freaking finals, like then maybe you could be like, oh well, he got all fired up in the Jordan documentary, like. But I mean, like Brandon said, like there's no way, like there's no way. But
I'm real excited to see if we get like a director's cut of this documentary, because this thing was not supposed to come out until June.
hmm
And I know that they had to, like, ESPN kind of put the crunch to them to kind of finish this documentary. So I'm curious if they're going to have some type of director's cut where, like, he can take his time, make some scenes here and there or put some extra stuff in there and kind of re-release that on either like DVD or if they put it like on Netflix or something. So I'm definitely excited to see if they do that in the future.
yeah, you were saying before we started recording, like you wish there was like some kind of box set or like a physical version of this because it would be awesome to own.
So I was gonna ask one more thing. So Jordan retires. When does he come back and play for the Wizards? And how does that add
Yeah.
on?
So that was the summer or fall of 2001. I think it was right after 9/11, and I remember them doing like on ESPN or whatnot. He was doing interviews, and he kept saying, "I'm 99.9% sure I'm not coming back." He kept saying that over and over, and then it was just that 0.1% chance where he could come back, and he did. So he came back and he played with Kwame Brown, who Kwame Brown was the number one draft pick of that year. Kwame Brown was the first high school player to be drafted number one since Garnett, I think it was. And for that draft pick, he ended up being a bust, unfortunately. But he came back and he won like 38 games or something like that, and it was very cool to see, especially me here in the DMV area, the Delaware, Maryland, Washington, Virginia area. We get Washington, or we get the Wizards. We get their games here locally, so it was very cool to be able to see all those Jordan games here on our local TV. But I don't know, man. That was just the competitive drive of Jordan wanted to come back and try again against these younger guys. But I really wish he wouldn't have come, because we don't talk about those Wizards years too much, but it happened. Whatever.
I mean, like, ESPN, thank you for not like shining any light on that, because that would have like put a damper on it. Yeah, like ESPN basically, like if you're like a kid, like if you're like 12 years old or something right now watching that Jordan documentary, you have absolutely positively no idea that Jordan, like you think Jordan retired after 98 and you have no idea like what happened. So that's good, because they're, preparing for the next generation of basketball fans by not letting people know that he did come back and, it was the Wizards and whatever. So yeah.
And has cemented his history. Like I said, making this doc. And if anyone ever wants to go back and watch it, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, Jordan is the greatest."
Yeah.
Hold my documentary.
Yeah, but well, Brandon, I want to thank you for coming on and the past couple weeks and talking about the episodes, because me and Justin probably would talk for 10 minutes and then
we'll be like, "That's it. All right,
that'd be it." But you helped us do justice to this Jordan doc, so I appreciate
it was cool reliving my childhood, just seeing all the different stuff when it comes to the Bulls and 90s basketball. So it was definitely fun. I appreciate you having guys on.
And with that, we'll talk to you again after a while. Go Bulls.
Thanks, Mike.